Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Whitney, and today we are back at it again with another little story about how you probably shouldn't act like me. Okay, I wanted to tell you guys this story because this is going to be a really huge lesson for you, because it was a really huge lesson for me. Now if you guys are interested in what I got to talk about today, because I know you saw the topic, then keep on watching. First off, I just want to remind you guys to don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on your post notifications so you never miss when I post a new video. If you like this video, leave it down in the comments below. Also, if you've gone through this before, leave it down in the comments below. If you guys want more of these type of videos, you gotta let me know. So how am I gonna know? You gotta stay engaged with me so I can stay engaged with you. Alright guys, let's get right on into it. Okay, so to jump right into this story, it's just gonna be a little quick one because I randomly thought of it as I was like editing my other video. Basically what had happened was let's just start from the jump. Okay, so about a couple years ago, I had gone through a relationship that lasted for approximately a couple months, and in this relationship it was very toxic. We were arguing all the time. We were basically going through a lot, and the excuse that this person was giving me was, you know, that we just weren't compatible, right? And so like I mentioned, we have 4 characters within this story. 3 of them are important. 1 of them, 5 characters. One of them is not really all that important, but I don't even think we really need nicknames for people. Let's just keep going. So within this story, I was dating someone. We're just gonna call him Travis, right? And I mentioned Travis in another story of mine, if you guys peep. So Travis and I dated for a couple months, and within that relationship we were very toxic, right? So we were toxic to the point to where like we were arguing all the time. He kept reminding me that we weren't dating, right? Like he was like, oh, we're just talking. But you know, I was at his place every night. We were going out on dates all the time. We were doing things that people who are just talking aren't supposed to do. So it was very confusing for a 19-year-old / 20-year-old who had just lost their virginity to you. You know what I'm saying? Like it was that crazy time where like I thought I loved this person, or I was in love with this person. I thought so, and so I was giving all of myself to this person, and then I was also trying to get them to act right, if that makes sense. So within this, Travis had his own apartment, and so he had his own dorm that he didn't have to pay for. And within that dorm, I would come over all the time, and our best friends, like we had a mutual friend that I met Travis through, and Chris, if you guys remember Chris, I mentioned him before in my story time. Chris was his neighbor, and so Chris and Travis shared a dorm, but the way that the dorms were set up was like there was 4 people to a dorm. Each of them had their own room, and they shared a common area, and they shared a refrigerator, but 2 people on one side shared a bathroom, and 2 people on the other side shared the bathroom. On this side it was Chris and Travis, and on that side it was whoever, but I would normally hang out with Chris and Travis. During that time I was going over to the dorms a lot. Like we would talk all the time, we would hang out all the time, we would go over and like just chill, right? And so we were also trying to be discreet because we didn't want Chris to feel like he was compromised in his own place. So while I was dating Travis, you know, we would argue all the time, but we would argue in a sense that we were trying not to make Chris feel uncomfortable. So like we would have whisper arguments all the time, and if I remember correctly, Chris did mention to Travis that he heard us argue one time, but that was just like we were just trying to make sure that like no one heard us arguing, but we were arguing like a lot. Like I'm talking like I would get my clothes from his place and I would bring it down to my car. I would leave crying. I would like, it was embarrassing. But the thing about it is like the way that I knew that it was over was because Travis started to pack my things in a box. He would tell me things like, I'm just doing this just in case. So he took this big ass white tub one day, and he was like, he used that to move into the dorm, and he was like, here, you can have this tub. I'm just gonna put all your clothes in here, and I'm gonna bring it down to your car in the trunk. He took all of my clothes that like I had at his place, and these were clothes that I had that like he allowed me to have a drawer. And so because I had that drawer, because I was over there all the time, I had like a couple clothes over there, like a little good bit. Like I had pajamas, I had regular clothes. Like if I wanted to get ready and go to class, I could just do that and dip. And so he took all of that and it filled up the white tub a good bit, and he put it in my car, put it in the backseat of my car. And this is kind of how I knew that things were starting to go down. And during this time, Travis was kind of trying to feed into one of his friendships, right? And so just to give a backstory on Travis, Travis was involved with one of his friends because they were both going through a breakup, and then with this friend, they ended up, you know, being intimate, and she ended up falling in love with him, and she like couldn't separate the friends and whatever. During this time, he was trying to make sure that that girl that fell in love with him still knew that he was there for her, but he was also trying to draw the line and say, but we're just friends. And keep in mind, okay? Because keep in mind. And so because of that, every Thursday he would go over to her dorm. Remember that now. Every Thursday he would go to her dorm because she had something where, like, I don't want to disclose too much because that's her business, but in a sense, she would say that Travis was her person. And so because Travis was her person, he was like, okay, this is my friend at the end of the day, and I do want to be her supporting factor, whatever. And so I'm going to hang out with her every Thursdays. And so I was okay with it in a sense. Like, I didn't trust her because I knew that she was in love with him, but I was like, I do appreciate the fact that you are trying to make this barrier and still allowing her to be your friend. Like, I thought it was a little bit noble, right? Little did I know, but I thought it was noble. So continuing throughout our relationship, Travis and I got to the point to where he started getting pissed off that I was eating his food. But anyways, let's continue. So he started to get pissed off that I was eating his food, and I was kind of sitting there like, but you bring me over, you know that I work at freaking Applebee's, like I don't have coin like that, you know that I would give you anything. I've gotten, when I was living there, because I was basically living there, let's be real, I would bring toilet paper because apparently guys don't use as much toilet paper as females, so I would buy toilet paper for them. It wasn't all the time, but you know, he did ask me to buy toilet paper, so I would. And I also would help him out with his groceries when he allowed me to, because I don't know what it is with men, I don't know, that he didn't really like me paying for his groceries. So I was just like, okay, well, I use them, you know. And I also cooked for the dorm one time, just once, where I made macaroni and something else, I don't remember, because I wanted to show that, like, even though I'm there all the time, I am utilizing your resources, but just know that, like, we're in this together. Like, I'm not trying to mooch off of anybody. And so when we had this argument about how he was like, oh, you're eating my food and I don't appreciate you eating my food, this was all through email, mind you. He was emailing me through work. And so because Travis had an internship or a job, I don't remember which at this time, it was an internship, he couldn't use his phone on base. And because he couldn't use his phone, we would communicate through email. So he sent me an email like, I want to talk to you, I want to talk about, you know, how you're eating my food. And then at the end of it, he was like, you're getting upset, but keep in mind, we're not together. Like, I haven't asked you to be my girlfriend. And that pissed me off. So I went off and I started texting him, and then I was like, wait, hold on, he's not gonna read this. Then I started emailing him back, and I was like, how can you say this? Like, how can you sit there and be like, oh, we're not together, but we're doing everything that people do together? And I was like sitting outside of a bank when I was going off, because I had to do something at bank. I don't remember, but I remember looking at the email and I was so pissed, because I was like, in a sense, he is right, because it's not like he's balling and he needs to conserve his food as well. But at the same time, it's not like I'm just sitting here not offering anything. And so, and I'm not talking about like, I'm not talking about that at all. I'm just saying, like, I was offering everything. Like, I was like, let me buy this for you guys, because I do that. Let me cook with you. Let's make meals together. Like, I was really being like, let's do this together, because the place that I was living, I couldn't do that. So the place that I was living at, let's just say this right now, I was living at my aunt's place, and I thank her every single day for allowing me to live with her while I was trying to get back on my feet, because during this time I had just dropped out of school and I didn't know that I was going to go back to school at all until my aunt helped me get back to school. So I went to a community college, and she helped me get into a community college, and not help me as in like being accepted, but helped me as in paying for it. And so because of my aunt, I was able to go to the community college, but because I live about almost 45 minutes away from the college, I needed to live closer. And so because of that, I decided to move in with my aunt, and like free of cost, and I started to live there. But there was about 11 of us in the house. I thankfully had my own room, but my own room was not even as big as this bed. Like, if I'm keeping it a buck with you, it was pretty, that's a little bit exaggerating, but it was like the size, if you want to cut off, oh well, you guys can't see, anyways, but if you want to cut off that bed, like basically from me to that wall, it was a pretty small room. And I'm not saying like I'm being ungrateful, but what I'm saying is, like, I didn't really have any space. So a lot of my clothes stayed in boxes. I only had one drawer. I had a closet. Of course, I could put all my stuff in there, but everything was cluttered. And so I had to eventually get my own refrigerator, like a small refrigerator, because every time I put food in the refrigerator, the main refrigerator, the kids would eat it. There was 5 kids in that house. There was 2 parents who were like my age with 5 kids, right? And then it was my aunt and her husband. And then also her daughter's son also lived there as well. And well, I think he did live there. I don't really know how that situation went. It's none of my business. But regardless, there was a lot of us in that house. There was 5 kids, all under the age of like 7. There was their parents, which is my aunt's daughter and her son-in-law. And then it was my aunt and my uncle. And I was like, damn, there's a lot of people. And then they brought me into the mix. So I was like, thank you for this. Like, you really didn't have to do that with all these people in this house. But she let me live there. And she continued to let me live there even though I wasn't home every single night. And she was really upset with me for that. But that's a different story for a different day. Anyways, so because of that situation, we were also living in a lower income area. And in this lower income area, we had to not necessarily meet requirements, but we had to keep the place clean. But in between inspections, the place was kind of really, like, I don't want to call it a pigsty, but let's just say I have PTSD from roaches. Okay, let's just keep it a buck. I have PTSD from roaches. And often when I cooked my food, there would sometimes be roaches in it. And I don't want to talk about that. So let's just move on. So I got my own refrigerator. Didn't end up using my refrigerator a lot because it started to get, you know. So I was like, okay, I can't necessarily put my food over here a lot. I could cook over there. I had my own skillet thing and I would cook, but if I cooked, I had to eat it that night. So I tried meal prepping, but it just didn't work for me because of the unfortunate circumstances. And so I would kind of want to escape from that area because it was a bunch of kids screaming all the time. They were always getting beat, and that sounds bad. They were always getting in trouble. Like, you know, they were always getting whoopings, and it just wasn't like a quiet space. So to get my mind right, I had not my boyfriend, I guess, but I had Travis. So I would go over to Travis's all the time because I just needed some peace. And at the time, he was an element of my peace. And so as I'm continuing throughout, you know, this relationship, when he hit me with that, when he hit me with like the food problems, I was so offended because I was like, you know my situation. Like, why are you trying to do this to me as if I'm just mooching off of you? Like, you know, I don't eat that much. During this time, I didn't have a lot of money, of course, and because, you know, I was 19 and I had a job serving, but I also had bills. I wasn't behind on my bills just yet, but I also wasn't working a lot because I was in school. And because I was in school, I cut back on my hours at work because I had just dropped out of a university and I was trying to make sure that I could be able to get back in. So all of my time was focused on school, and when it wasn't focused on school, it was focusing on having fun. And I'm not going to say that my priorities was the best back then because it wasn't, but that's what I did. And so because I didn't have a lot of money, he felt like he was supporting me as well, which was kind of like really messed up if you really think about it, if you really want to delve right into that. But let's just keep it going. So he was like basically telling me to support myself because he thought that I wasn't supporting myself. And I was pissed. Like, you can only imagine struggling, like living in a space that you really don't want to live in with vermins, and you can't even cook food, and you're trying to cook food, but like I'm not allowed to use these things, or like if I cook food I can only eat it that night. How often do you think I have time to cook food that night when I have school and then I have work? Like, it's like, it doesn't, it two don't know, it don't So like the whole thing really like pissed me off, because I was also slightly codependent during that time, but that's a different story. But anyways, so it pissed me off because my resources was also being cut shorter, like a lot shorter than what was necessary, because I'm like, I'm already limited and you're limiting me so much more, and it's so unnecessary. So we had an argument about that. Let's just speed this up, right? So we get to the point to where I get this feeling, like after arguing a lot, I get this feeling like things are probably not gonna, like the air feels awkward. You feel me? So there was this one time, like right before work, me and Travis are hanging out, we're having a good time, and then I have to leave and we kiss and we say goodbye. And then I get mad. I don't remember what we argued about, but it wasn't even like a huge argument. It was like kind of like one of those joking arguments. And I was like, I remember putting him in his place, and he was upset about it, because that sounds like I'm lying, or like I'm being like, oh, I put him in his place and he was just mad because, like, no, like I really was being like, no, you can't do that, like you have to be a better person. Like I literally was doing like one of those, and he was just like, why do we always have to argue? And the thing about Travis is like, if you slightly like change your octave and voice, you automatically got an attitude. And the thing about me is like, if you tell me I'm mad, or if I have an attitude and I'm just chilling, it pisses me off. So the two just didn't even mix, because like I hate when people tell me what I'm not. Like it really pisses me off. Like if I'm good, I'm chilling and I'm having a great time, just because I say, hey, don't do that, that's not a good thing, how is that an attitude? And so that, was blown out of proportion, and it was just, another argument. And I remember just leaving. Like I looked back at him and laughed, and I left to go to work because I had to go. That night was a Thursday night, right? And so when I was at work, the whole time I was having something weird in my gut. Women's intuition is a real damn thing, people. Let me tell you, like, it's not funny. You really and truly know what the hell is going on with you and your man, because things just don't add up, and God has blessed us with this sort of intuition thing to where we know something's not right, to where when you finally tell us what you did, we like, yeah, I knew, God already told me, basically. Like, you just have to admit it. You don't have to lie. And so during this time, I was working at Applebee's, and I was a server, and I was getting my money and stuff like that. And then we kind of hit this plateau, and we were slow. And I was texting him, and I was like, hey, like, what's going on with us, right? Because I felt something, and he was just like, nah, I got something to tell you later, we can talk about it. And I was like, okay, that's fine, right? And I was hitting him with a bunch of messages because I knew, I had a feeling we were going to break up. And I was like, I just want to let you know that I love you, and if things don't go well, then we could still like be friends, we could still work it out maybe later down the road. Like I was hitting him with those texts, and he was just like, I understand, blah blah blah. I don't really remember his responses to that, but I don't remember me being mad about the responses. And I remember sending him this long text like, yo, like, we had a great friendship. Our friendship was bonded through, laughs and all of this and stuff like that. And I was like, yo, you are my best friend. At the end of the day, we did say we were going to be best friends, so we got to be honest with each other, like what you got to tell me. And he was like, I'll just tell you later. I get off work, I go home, and I'm like calling him, and then he picks up, and he's mad nonchalant. Like, it's the forced nonchalant to where they faking, they just trying to be cool. It's, how someone just fakes being nonchalant. Like, I don't know how to describe it, how someone just fakes being nonchalant, because it's mad fake, and that they not chill about it, that they scared. And it's like, I don't know, let me try to figure out the voice. It's like, yeah, I gotta tell you something. Yeah, I can tell you about it. No, I'd rather tell you later. Like, I don't know. It's just the language. It's like, but you about it, but you not really about it. So it's like, why don't you just tell me now? And so I was like, okay, so what's your decision? Like, what are we doing here? And then I was like, no, wait. Let me come over. So I hung up, and I went over to his place, and we were talking in the car. I don't know why we drove around, but we ended up going to the top of the parking lot. and that was right across from the girl that was in love with him, her dorm. So he sits there and he's like, we need to break up. And then I start, feeling all sad and stuff, when you first, keep in mind, like what I told you, like this is the time where I like was getting my heart broken for the first time. That sounds so gooey and disgusting. We're just gonna leave that there and keep it moving. So I was experiencing that, and I was basically reacting to that, right? Like I was reacting to what was happening to me. And so because of that, I was basically reacting. Let's just say I was reacting, but I was also like, okay, well, let's just work through it. We can do this, or we can just come back together, right? He was saying like, no, we got to break up. And I was like, no, we can work this out. Like going back and forth with that. It wasn't like super long. It was probably like, he was like, we're going to have to break up. And I was like, no, we can work it out. He was like, no, we really need to break it up. I was like, no, like we are best friends. We can do this. And then he was like, I slipped up and I kissed, we're going to call her Karen. He was like, I slipped up and I kissed Karen. And I was like, I paused and I was like, okay. And I was basically thinking in that moment, I was like, okay, so this is what I'm feeling then. Like, this is the badness that I'm feeling, and that's all that it is. In my head, I was like, if that's all that it is, then we can just work that out. And I was dumb. Okay, I was an idiot. Like, you don't work it out with a cheater. No matter what they do, you don't work it out with a cheater, okay? No matter if they have sex, if they're just talking to them, talking sexy, sending pictures, kissing them, you don't work it out with a cheater. Anyways, so basically, as we're continuing forward, like, he was like, I slipped up and I kissed Karen. And I was like, we can work through it then. We can, like, I was like, we can work through it. Like, we're just gonna have to come up with boundaries now, like what you were supposed to do in the first place. Now you're not gonna see her every Thursdays. And I was just like going off giving him things, and then he was like, I slipped up and I had sex with her. And I was like, sat back and I was like, are you just saying that so you just won't be with me? And he was just like, no, I really did it. And I was just like, whatever. So during that night, like, I was upset, I was crying. He wouldn't leave me alone because, like, he was like, I don't want you to go home because I know how you're feeling. Like, the stuff that he was doing for Karen, that I thought was noble, he was trying to do for me. And I was like, not necessarily having it fully. Like, I was upset that night, but I was still wanting to be with him, right? I'm not gonna get too deep in how it was going on, but let's just say things didn't work out. Okay, like, he obviously wasn't wanting me, and the girl that I was insecure about, because a lot of our arguments was because of Karen, because I was like, she's doing too much. She's telling everybody how much she loves you, and she knows that you're in a relationship. That's not respecting you guys as friends. And so we would always have that argument, but whatever, right? Let's continue forward. And so that moment, I was very pissed. Like, I got to the point to where I was like very depressed, and then I was angry. And during this angry time is when I was just like thinking of stuff, right? Like, I was just trying to do the absolute most. And during this time, right, my friends were like the greatest. Like, my friend Rose was with me all the time. Like, she was just trying to make me feel better. And my friend Ches was also with me. Like, she was just trying to make me feel better because she was like, I told you this nigga wasn't shit. Like, I told you he was whack. I told you he was a jerk. Told you he was this, that, and third. And I was like, but I love him. And you know how you can freaking be at 19. And so here's where the tea kind of falls in. So I'm hanging out, after the whole split. I stopped talking to Travis for like 4 months, I think it was. I think for 3 months, 2 months, something, whatever. I stopped talking to him. And here I'm hanging out with Ches. And she's over my house, over my aunt's house, because now I'm in my aunt's house. I'm not leaving anymore, right? She's over, and I was basically telling her what happened with the whole cheating thing, because even though he was like, oh, we're not together, he was treating me like we were together. And so that is cheating. Whether or not you guys believe in that or not, let's talk about that. Leave it down in the comments below whether or not you believe sleeping with somebody else during the intense talking phase is cheating. I'm gonna put a poll up. Let's see what you guys think. I say it's cheating because if you're not loyal during the talking phase, how am I supposed to trust you when we're actually like having a title on it? There's people out there, I'm going off on a tangent, but there's people out there who don't even have a title, and it's just unspoken. So like, during that time, that's what I was thinking. It was unspoken that we were just together, right? Anyways, so as Ches was over at my house, we were talking about the situation because it was really fresh when she came over. And she was just, going in on his ass. And during this conversation, I don't remember how it came up. I really and truly believe that it was me, but I'm not going to admit it. So during this time, we were talking about different ways to get back at him, right? And I was like, I don't understand how he can do this to me. And I was so loyal to him throughout everything. Like, I was loyal to him to this. Even when he was treating other females bad, I was loyal. Like, I was really going in. And she was like, we need to do something about it. And I think I was the one who came up with it. But let's just keep going, right? And so me and Ches are hanging out. We're hanging around the town, just doing random things. And we found ourselves at Walmart. What are we doing at Walmart, you may ask? Well, the goal was to make sure that Karen found something in Travis's car that would indicate that he was cheating. Because we thought this was a good idea, we decided to go to Walmart and buy an underwear. It was a black underwear. We went to Walmart. We got the black underwear, and we debated about getting eggs. But I don't remember us getting the eggs. And we've talked about getting a fish and leaving it in his car. So we're at Walmart, and we just so happened, I don't know, I might have needed it, you never know. I definitely needed to stock up on some underwear, so I decided to pick out some black underwear. And I thought that I also needed to clean the other underwear, right? But, it's fresh, it's new. It probably needs to get a little bit dirty before you wash it, right? So I thought maybe it would be a good idea to wipe the underwear on some fish so that way it could clean better in the washer. That makes sense. Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, that makes sense. So we do that because we want to go home and to be able to wash the underwear. And as we're going home, we just so happen to pass by Travis's dorm, but his car wasn't there. So we were like, okay, well, his car's not there. And during this process, we also somewhat kind of passed by, I don't know how, Karen's dorm as well. And we just so happened to find Travis's car at Karen's dorm. And I also knew where she stayed because I peeped that. So I and Ches were sitting in the parking lot because, we were kind of running out of gas. So we decided to pull over because, we were driving around town a lot. And so we just wanted to chill. So we decided to sit in the parking lot and just chill. So during this time, we have a underwear and a bag from Walmart, and we're just talking, right? We're just talking about how we were going to put fish in his car and how we were going to egg his car and egg his engine. And we just talked about it. So this is the point where I literally, I don't know what would have happened. So during this time, we debated about doing this thing, and I'm not going to continue for it. I think you guys got the idea. So we decided we almost did it. And the only reason why we didn't is because I punked out. I was like, you know what? No, this isn't a good idea. I don't want to do this. I think it's going to come back to me. I feel like they're going to know it's me. There's no way they can't know it's me. And we even went as far as to buy underwear in the size that wasn't mine because I'm a smaller girl. Like, I wear smalls and mediums, I believe. And so we got something that was like a little bit larger that wouldn't fit me. You feel me? So, because, when you put it in the washer, it shrinks. So, this was the moment that I knew that I can never let a man drive me to the point to where I'm trying to ruin his relationship with somebody else, especially when he ruined his relationship with me. He can do that all on his own. Baby girl, I am here to tell you, we need to stop doing this, okay? We need to stop allowing these bad people, significant others, to treat us so horribly that it takes us outside of our own character. The reason why I'm telling you guys this story is because we need to stop allowing these men to drive us to the point to where we're acting so crazy that we do something that can just drive us nuts. You know what I mean? Like, it can literally drive us nuts. That night, it was only me. It was my decision for the reason why we did not continue out with the plan, because I sat there and I was like, this is not a good idea, and I don't want to do this. I don't want to ruin that relationship. I was like, he's good, I'm peacing out. Like, it just, I can't do this. Like, I'm not that person. And I remember being like that to Ches. I was just like, I can't do this. And so we drove away because we, you know, it was time for us to go home because we were driving around everywhere and we didn't want to waste no more gas. So we decided to go home. Moral of the story: do not allow anybody to compromise you out of your character. If bad things happen, just know that you alone got your back. Make sure you got your back no matter what, okay? Thank you guys for joining me today on this beautiful story. I hope I taught you guys something that I learned. And if you like these type of videos, don't forget to give me a big thumbs up. I enjoyed telling the story today. Thank you guys for joining me today, and I hope to see you next time.